And that's where it all depends on the individuals there. Can make a riding go or not? That structure no
And I think this is the overarching argument, is that we have a great structure as a party. The Liberal Party is a brilliant structure. But if you don't fill that structure with people who want to be there and do a certain job, the structure is empty. And if we take a look at Calgary East, a year ago today, basically, there was no Calgary East Association. And now we have a vibrant structure with vibrant people. So it can be done, but how do we go about doing that?
And when you're looking at structure, you often, you can separate relationship versus reporting, because reporting is very, very accountable, but it's the relationships that gets things done.
Yeah.
Interesting though, when you talked about this, one of the evidence-based ones, if you focus on an issue, you're more likely to, it leads to action. So I think that's what the commissions were, an attempt to lead to action. And if there is it may be the relationship of the people on it that's the problem, not the structure. So, and even some of the things that Josipa said, like this one, actually, from a Canadian perspective, my feeling, my perception is that the Senate should be nonpartisan as much as possible. They're looking at the issue as an issue, not necessarily from an ideological perspective. So you're looking at people who have different, totally different perspectives around the table. When you said that they had kind of the Liberals in there have to do what this party does, that surprised me.
This is, and in fact, you remind me of a new debate, because within the party, one of the discussion points is that the caucus, the MPs should be out and about, right? You're an elected MP, you should be out around the country when you're not in the House of Commons, helping the rest of us get elected and promote liberalism so we can put into place a better government, right? Use your face and your name. In the past, the Senate, the Liberal senators have not been asked to do the same job, for the reason that you indicated. More recently, since our decimation, the argument has been, and this is why you will see more senators visiting, is that Liberal senators have a job to rebuild the party, because without the party, we won't have good governance. So you will see more senators out and about because they see it as their job now to promote liberalism. We may disagree. We may, as the party membership, say, actually, we don't like that idea. If we don't like that idea, they need to hear it. And they need to hear it through this forum in the convention.
I actually think they've been forced into it because the Conservatives vote en bloc.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a bloc voting before.
And there wasn't. And you hear the senators say that up until 2006, senators pretty much voted according to policy. But now they vote ideologically.
That's exactly.
Yeah. So that's the structure, and hopefully we can look to that more.
Can I add one more, Diane?
Sure.
Resume building. You know, we nominate candidates, but we don't help them build their resumes for the election. I think that is if you look at the Americans are really good at doing that. They nominate somebody and then they put the resources to help build the resume of the candidate. As you said, you can be a good person. If somebody's saying get somebody high profile, no, you don't need to get a good person to help, introduce them to different organizations, get them to join things, get their files up in the committee. I think that's something that I know is lacking in the party.
That's very smart.
And this is one that, and this is so often missed in any kind of structure. The bottom line is your base is you Canadian people, and you better start from there. If you lose sight of why you're there. And so any kind of structure should make sure that doesn't matter whether you're Liberal or not, you've got to have a Canadian, you have to look at the people. And then from that, you're looking at the candidate. Because the candidate is basically the grassroots with their riding association.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised here, for instance, that you might have more if the candidate were part of this. Because some actually do have a candidate. Huh?
We're
getting there.
You're getting that.
Oh, yes.
So, but this will help us, and as you can see, we've got a lot to build on. So now, who was at the consultation with Grant Mitchell?
I was.
You were there. Is this different enough? Are we going there? I just wanted some feedback.
I will say this, you're headed in the right direction because in most of the ones with, the same with Hetty Fry and with Grant and with Joan Bourassa, who is our national policy chairperson for the Liberal Party, she lives in Calgary. She lives in Calgary Southeast. Okay? Do you think all our policy comes out of Ottawa? That's a big town. But the thing is in things like this, you only have time to scratch the surface. And I need to get Calgary Southeast on the same track because you guys are going in the right direction and that you're moving this forward. And that's what we can never do when the MPs or the senator are here. I always say, we're really good at identifying problems. How do we fix the problem? That's what we need to do. We talked about earlier about model,
Yeah.
right? It's the how. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
That's what people at baseline,
And I think you've
people want
seen
to
a
know.
bit of a mixture.
They want to know the how.
in here. Yeah, that's good to know. I'll put that on the parking lot.
Can we ask Diane, apropos your last question, just because on the last thing on the agenda is the future meeting.
Yeah.
So as we're moving forward, and we all discussed this, Gabrielle, Diane, myself yesterday, as to do we want just a series of repeats of this in different communities, or do we want to do, and we thought we wanted to. So if we're talking about meeting again in a month and a half, a month, in another community, what should be the focus? We've got this, we know what Canadian values are, we know what liberal values are, we've got the structure, what do we want the focus to be?
We're thinking of saying that this is what we've heard. One, you always have to reaffirm. There's always a process in there that, you know, even I said, oh, you know, is there something you need here?
I just want to address what, Frank said about the candidates versus, if I may, very quickly, it's less than 2 pages. This is something I wrote for the meeting that I couldn't attend, the caucus meeting that Josipa went to.
Oh, good.
Okay, and it talks exactly about that. Skip a few parts, so. We must show we want and deserve the job as their MP. This starts with the future nomination candidate. Future nomination candidate must become part of the verbal vernacular within our party. Past candidate or defeated has the perception of saying the same thing as defeated candidate. Right now in our structure, especially in Alberta, we have a lot of hold the flag candidates who are nominated after the election has been called. Okay? What I'm proposing we do is, you can't, under certain rules, you can't have a nomination meeting at certain times. What I'm asking is for our party to allow electoral district associations like Calgary East to say, you're planning on running as a candidate, you're planning on getting the nomination for us? Okay, you know what? Prove to us you want the job. Hold these. Fundraise. All the money goes into the electoral district. It's not saying you're going to be the candidate. Prove to us you should be the candidate. Building the resume. Okay? Getting the name out. All those things. And let's face it, with the elimination of the funding, the $2 voting, we need to fundraise. This isn't an option anymore. It takes a lot of money to run a campaign. I ran a very small campaign in Calgary Southeast. I spent $14,000. And really, that was nothing. You need to spend $40,000 to $50,000 just to run a larger campaign. In my writing, I can spend like $8,000. I'm finished. So what I'm doing is I'm going through, as I said, the National Policy Chair, Wendy Butler, and I passed this up to the PTAs. One of the problems with them allowing us to do this is pre-rep campaign. You can't do that. So we've really got to be careful along the lines. So I'm asking for a policy change that people like Josipa and myself, instead of calling ourselves past candidates or shadow MPs, which is going to be part of the job description, we're called future nomination candidates, which means we can go out to the grassroots, to people. And one of the things I like to say is, we as Liberals talk to each other too much. We need to talk to other people. Okay? And the only way we can do that is if we have people who are a future nomination candidate out there engaging the public, holding the rallies. But right now, we're really not allowed to do this. And it is a fallacy, a part of the structure we have, that we need to put a slot in there saying, look, if you're thinking of running, you can do this job. You can be a shadow MP. You can hold panels, discussion groups, things like that in public. Because we need to prove that we want the job. In all 274 ridings we don't have right now, we need to prove we want the job. And that we're the best ones for the job.
Well, saying you're a future nominated candidate, doesn't mean you're the candidate.
No. And here's the
If
best
you're
part,
there.
is anybody who's a card carrying member in that electoral
Technically.
district can technically say they want to do that.
So it
So you can have 12,
should
15,
be
or 30.
okay.
Okay? But you gotta be very careful in what you do, because it can't be construed as a pre-written campaign
By the
Okay.
government rule.
No, by the party.
by the party.
This is, and this is the elitism here.
Until you have a
It-
nomination meeting
Yeah.
called, you can't say that you're a candidate for nomination.
Technically, the PTA will tell you, you cannot go about saying Josipa Petrunic nomination candidate because you're not. No nomination process has been put into place yet, and we have to wait for the leader to be elected. While Brian and myself, we just walk around saying we are,
Yeah.
because we're starting our campaign. There is that loophole, but what you risk getting is a lot of backlash from certain people within the structure. And that backlash has to go, is what Brian
It
suggested.
needs
That backlash has to
to,
go.
and Josipa has been, and Anna, sorry, and the executive of Calgary East have been banging their heads against the wall the whole place. A lot more than I have, because my structure isn't even close to what you guys have yet. I'm working on it. But we need to be able to identify ourselves. If we're gonna find candidates, let's find the candidates. Allow them to work as future nomination candidates, work on behalf of the EBA and prove you want the job. In Ontario, this may mean you have 10 or 15 people doing it. They're all raising money for that electoral district. And whoever wins the nomination, and that's their war chest for the election. Because, I'll tell you this, 50% of the money they raise in Alberta for the Conservatives goes to Ontario, or more. And you know what? We need to build a war chest. Ideas are great, if you don't have the money to create your own media, you still don't get the word out. And this is an idea that we have to get around fundraising, get around the structures that are put in place. The bias of the PTA in Alberta comes from the fact that candidates are there, and when the election's over, they disappear. Okay, I didn't know that. It's a very rare thing, and it's a very rare thing that we have candidates in Calgary that are actually considering running 4 years from now. This is new in Calgary. Jennifer Pollock was basically the only one from before. And if you want to talk about star candidates, we had a star candidate,
Yeah.
Jennifer Pollock. But the other part of the messaging model is part of it. So I'm working on getting this as a constitutional amendment for the policy convention. Like, we need to do this to win the 274 seats we don't have. And you know what? I'm not saying that we have bad MPs, but if someone in their home EDA wants their job, it'll certainly make them work harder too. Prove we want the job.
Can you summarize it in the form of a proposed resolution for our next meeting? Because
I'm working on it. And
you'll need membership support. or
Yeah,
something
and
like that.
well, one of the things I have to do is I'm going to talk to Wendy Butler and who's our provincial policy chair to write this in the proper
I'm going across.
policy form.
Sit on all the time.
Yeah. But that's the essence of what I'm trying to do. And so, yes, we are trying to adjust the candidate issue because, and I agree with the resume building, or if it's a star candidate. Yes.
I just like your idea because it's a positive term.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that alone should be the only reason why we do it. Yeah, it's a positive term. So,
You know, and when I tell people I'm a past
Yes.
candidate, they're like, oh, you were defeated.
yeah,
Yeah, but I'm also a future nomination.
exactly.
And that is the reason that I chose that term.
Yeah,
Someone said, well, it's kind of a mouthful. Well, it's exactly
it's a
what you
positive
are.
term. Yeah.
Okay, but that's just to go along.
I'm gonna do
what you
a,
said.
just so we don't,
working on it.
yeah, just so we don't miss anybody, I'm just gonna go around, do one round, it is getting late. And if there's, I'd like to know two things. One, is there something that we should add to our consultations? And two, should we build on the consultation? So if you have some ideas, we'll start with you.
Definitely build.
She
And
can stay with
probably
me.
have, and I think there's several people decided to talk about specific issues. I think definitely have maybe an agenda item to specific policies, education and healthcare. That might be it.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Because I'm sure people are more passionate about certain things and
Yeah.
will have more ideas.
I'm gonna put that on Robert to forget.
Actually, you could break it, you could have in the same meeting, you could have
Yep.
several groups if you're.
Oh, yeah,
interested in
if we had a
healthcare.
bigger meeting.
If you have a bigger
Yeah.
meeting, you could have several groups.
You
Like,
can-
if you want
you
to
can
say
decide.
healthcare over here,
It's with the Women's Commission to.
Oh.
In another,
So it's-
maybe in another few minutes, a few meetings, you probably could do that.
Yeah.
I think they just specific examples.
I don't know, for the next meeting, I think it's important that, we can't just, we can build, but there's better forms to build. Like than just repeating again when you could be building off what you have. But I think it's important that somehow you take this information and make it public to anyone who wants to come to the next meeting. Because if they come and they have no idea about the structure, there's no point.
I think we have to build almost background information.
Well,
You can see me, see, you're doing good.
yes, I can. Yes, I can. You possibly see my pupils are a whole lot smaller than when I walked in. That possibly looked like owl's eyes when I came in. Anyway, my thoughts are more with the trying to formulate individual policies, you know, in various fields. So I'm going to have to wait 1 or 2 meetings down the line.
Right.
The only thing I wanted to mention was that we're hearing a lot about this social media. It seems to be the word of the day, or words of the day. But it's important that you don't marginalize an older generation who aren't quite as computer savvy. They still rely on more traditional means, and if you want to reach out to everybody in all age groups and all income levels and so on, you have to address your form your message in such a way that it's accessible to all groups.
I think we will have to work on something where we can engage the current membership that we have of the EDA. I think we have about 70 right now, and only a few are here tonight. So we need to look at maybe a different type of forum. Maybe it is something more traditional, a paper survey sent out, or even a telephone survey that we make as an executive, and try to get a discussion going so that we can say when we report this to Wendy Butler, to Joan Barassa, by the end of October, that we have truly engaged the membership, that we tried to contact them and engage them in this process, and not that we just engaged those that were interested on a Wednesday night.
First of all, I hope you were zoomed in hurry up so you didn't see me spilling all over.
Oh, we're gonna highlight that.
All right. As an outsider.
You're
what-
an insider.
Well, no, as a different, from a different constituency, what you guys are doing here has to happen in all influence. And I think that's what we have to keep hammering away at, is to prove we don't have to go.
I think I have a thing more to add there. I agree with Gabrielle and Francesca.
Forwards and progressive.
I think the one item I missed with the convention and with the mountains there is, fiscal responsibility. I think Paul Martin's ideas in keeping control is lost. There's no one like him, and we need to bring that back. Someone that understands it not only for our party, but for the country, because it's being lost again right now.
So would you suggest maybe at some of these events, like case studies?
Well, no, you have to have policies how to balance the government's budget and that, because they've gone way out, and what we might do, have some fiscal policies that since Paul Martin's gone, it's sort of, well, he was very responsible.
Excuse me, Paul Martin was a manager who owned a very large business, and I think he was running the country that way.
Yeah, which was,
And
kept it.
that may be our indicator to the future, where we get some of our leaders.
We could be Greece.
He was also running a large business
Ireland.
with a social conscience.
Yeah.
The key is the social conscience.
Yes, but he was running a large business, right? And he was used to cutting costs in that business.
He understood that.
And that, right, is one of the things that the Liberal Party needs to get over to the Canadian public in the future, to get rid of the tax and spend Liberals. That's always been taxed on.
I'm just gonna go here because we do have to round up, so we are just taking ideas for the next meeting.
If you do, Daniel, you might want to replicate this.
That's the big thing.
Because this was only, I think, advertised in this community. Maybe you get replication, different stuff. You might, well, unless you have some other ideas.
Yeah, no, some replication. I think Diane, you mentioned that before as well.
Yeah,
There's always
yeah.
some
So
replication.
there will be some replication.
Yeah.
It's a different community.
And I would just like to add, we don't stop. I mean, the electoral districts are being asked to do this before October, so that we can all submit it up through the PTA channels, up through the party for the convention. Well, that's great, but a couple of these meetings won't solve all the problems. And most people recognize January is just a starting convention. There'll be another one in 2 years once the leaders elected for robust policies. So I think we continue. We have 24 months, and we should really canvass the whole riding and be developing a really robust.
I think when you get into the specifics, and I use the word issue, not policy. But when you start discussing issues, you will in fact get a whole variety of people. You won't, and I think it's important that you don't communicate that it's a liberal event.
Yeah, I think you're right. Great.
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Help yourself to some cake on your way out. And if I don't have your email or your contact
Or
info,
if
if
you're
I can
not a
grab
member
it.
and would like to buy a membership,
Yes, if you'd like to
please.
become a member and to become part of the board, we'll happily integrate you.
I think most times, I do try.
You're